done today. I trace a lot of the things, my interest in gender and gender mainstreaming and all of that. I went for a training in Uganda by Akina Mama wa Africa. I don't know if some of us are familiar with that particular organization. I went for their training, I think maybe I was 23. And I was like, I've never heard of these things these people are talking about, because I used to work at a young women's organization. We just received our first funding. So anyway, I went for this training. I like applying for things, so I had applied for this training, so I went for it. And there I say, there's language to say so many things that we were trying to figure out as a young feminist organization. And from there, I later on now went to study. I even decided to go study gender and development and things like that, just because of those seeds that were sown into me at that particular, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks workshop that I went to. So I hope that this becomes a workshop for many of us. There are many things, of course, we already know. There are journeys that have brought us here, and those journeys, some of them may continue, others we are starting to just interrogate and ask ourselves questions in a fresh way. So may we all just find what we are seeking, and may it find us here, right? Sawa sawa. Haya. Sawa. Okay. So today, our session is really on gender and inclusion, as I already said. And we really want to unpack gender equity and inclusion for our organization. I want us to continuously wear the cap of our institutions, GLAMI, TENWEC, Greek. We are the people, so think about your organization. Then we are going to try and analyze. I think it's supposed to be to analyze power and power dynamics within our institutions. I won't make you name names. We are going to do lots of exercises, and hopefully as we do those exercises, we get to reflect and we get to learn with one another. And then hopefully by the end of it, whether today or in the next 3 days, we will have a bit of a plan on how do we do the inclusion. And the inclusion conversation already started in the morning when we were talking with Lindy about a stakeholder. When you think about the stakeholders that you have, who is not included, who could you include? But really my main focus will also be to tease out how do we include girls in our programming. We are already programming for girls, but as someone, it's you, my sister, who was sharing, about how you work with girls, and then suddenly you're saying, but this back to school policy doesn't exactly work, right? And even I have similar experiences. I spent so much time giving scholarships to girls and young women. And then 3 years ago, I was doing a research on young mothers and adolescent mothers. And I said to myself, how is it all these years I never thought, how do I actually give a scholarship to a girl who is outside the regular education system? So these are questions we'll be asking ourselves just because we are here, we are the people who are programming, and we are definitely interested in moving our work even in better ways. So as we continue, I want us to just take, the thing is we are all seated according to our organizations. I would want to change that a little bit. So I'll ask us to stand and mingle. Yeah. Some of them, all of these, a bit of this is GLAMI, and maybe a few others. But anyway, let's all stand. You see, I have the mic, I have the mic. So, tuweke vitabu chini kidogo we just move around. I want us to find a partner, someone you haven't talked to yet. Maybe find 2. No, let's be in groups of 3. I want us to discuss, what do we understand by gender? I know we already know this, so we have half a minute to discuss what we mean, what we understand by gender. Yeah? Kama hamtaki kusonga pia ni sawa. Haya, what is gender? Oh, niko na kengele hapa, so nitaanza kupiga. Hiya. Let's hear from, what did you say?
So we had a discussion.
Uh-huh.
So there were two concepts that were coming up from, apart from gender, there was another one that was emerging about sex.
Mm-hmm.
So we were asking ourselves, and I was telling them my understanding, sex is the biological difference between male and female.
Mm-hmm.
Gender, those are the roles assigned to men and women based on the community perception or the task and the roles and the context. Kutokana na muktadha wa jamii husika.
Hapo sawa. Haya. Asante sana. I heard this team over here. Uh-huh.
Also, we say gender is social constructed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we were like, there is culture diversification. So it depends on how people define who is a man and who is a woman. So in African perspective, we understand that a man, this is a man, I'm a woman, and he has his roles in the community.
Yeah.
Like to pregnant a woman, to be the father, to provide a meat, to bear children, take care of the family. This is how the African perspective define gender. Yeah. So
Okay.
it depends.
Yeah, asante. Haya, you have something else to add or to different?
Well, okay. I think for us, just like to add what they have said, but we have also tackled on saying that how sometimes most of the community gets to think when you're speaking about gender, you're also speaking about sex.
Yeah.
While these are the two different terminologies. So we also delve deep into that as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Haya, I think we are all together, right? It is what? The social construct, which means that it can change from place to place, right? Because some places, and we see, right now, I think if you're in the feminist movement, there's a huge conversation on what's gender inclusive and what that means. But really, what is out here and totally accepted in the stuff that's not always accepted because people are constantly challenging it, but we are together in terms of what we mean, right? It's very distinct from sex, although both are important, because sometimes they even determine what opportunities we can or can't access in life. And as we already program for girls, we already know the differences. Even some of us here, if I ask about our own lived experiences, we may have some time where if it didn't happen to you, it happened to someone where they couldn't go access schooling or something just because they were a girl and whatever resources were available went to the boy. Okay, let's talk about gender equality. Find someone else to discuss gender equality. Here we are just defining terminologies. So, 1 minute, I'll give us a minute to discuss gender equality. Please note there are no right or wrong answers. We already know these things. Haya pale. Who? Here, over here. What is gender equality? One meeting. I really like this bell. Yes?
The first thing that came to our mind when we're talking about equality is about access. And I've been at the same level kind of a thing. In terms of, when it comes to any kind of privileges, does it present the same opportunities? Does it present the same challenges?
Yeah.
And anything around that. So the keyword is access.
Keyword is access. Thank you so much. Any other additions from anyone here? Is our sister here?
So we went further to discuss about the gender equality and gender equity, where gender equity is giving access or opportunities to people based on need.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the difference between the two.
Yes. Thank you so much. You've already moved us to our next thing. So gender equality is what? Equal rights, responsibilities, everything. We are all the same, yeah? And I'm sure we've all seen, we may have seen that image of when we talk about gender equality, we all get the same stool, yeah? Some people are trying to watch a match. We are all trying to watch a match across the fence, eh? And we all get the same stool. It doesn't matter if you're my height or you're even shorter or taller. We all get the same thing, which means some of us can see better than others, yeah? That's equality. That's such a live example in my where I grew up. My village is right next to the stadium. So my grandmother didn't allow me to go to the stadium most of the time. So I would stand on the gate, yeah? I would climb the gate so that I can watch whatever is going on in the stadium. It just came to me, actually, that these things, some of them, they feel like they're made up, right? But they're not. So gender equity is what? Any other? We don't have to discuss because we have it here. Lakini you are now reading my notes. I don't know, between me. Anyone? Gender equity? Yes?
Gender equity, you're just looking at the needs.
The needs?
This is a group of people, and you provide the service according to their needs.
According
as
to
you have
their
said,
needs,
one
yeah.
is short, the other one is this, and then you have to make sure that the shorter one reach in the place where they can also access the same opportunity without any distractions.
Yeah. So we all don't get the same thing, right? We all want to watch the match. So some of us get a higher stool, others get a shorter one, yeah? But do we see that bringing some tensions in our programming? What's an example? One, for example, the people, yes, my sister. Yeah, I thought you were saying something. You were starting to say something.
Gender equity is bringing tension.
Yeah.
Yes, I think with the gender equity is really bringing tension because most of the civil society, we are putting much of our work to the girl child, leaving the boy child behind. And where I come from Tanzania, when you are reading the statistics, boys drops much than girls nowadays. And when you are holding interventions for sensitizing out of school to go back to school, you can literally see boys that don't go back to school as much as at least girls go. So that is actually creating some sort of a scale that is not, equally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, my sister?
Do we all understand Swahili?
We're all East Africans, yes.
If we have Ugandans, maybe...
Banange, are you here?
No, not here.
No Ugandans, eh?
So
can
you
speak
can go in
Swahili.
Swahili, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kwenye gender equity nataka kuongelea kwa habari ya mfano wa Tanzania. Changamoto ambazo zinatokana na issue za gender equity kwenye issue za resource allocation. Kwenye kuajiri walimu, kuna kuajiri walimu mijini na vijijini. Unakuta vijijini kuna walimu wengi wa kiume, wa kike hamna, na kuna mabinti wanaohitaji msaada wa walimu wa kike. Lakini pia kuna changamoto katika mgawanyo wa rasilimali. Rasilimali yenye usawa wa kijinsia kwa kuzingatia uhitaji wa makundi yote. Unakuta kuna walimu ambao ni walemavu, mahitaji yao ni tofauti na walimu ambao sio walemavu. Lakini unakuta kuna wanafunzi ambao ni walemavu, mahitaji yao ni tofauti. Tukiangalia kwa nchi yetu sensa ya mwaka 2022 unakuta kuna kuna watoto wengi ambao wana ulemavu lakini hawajawa enrolled shuleni. Kwa nini? Kwa sababu mahitaji yao hayakuwa identified vizuri na wakachukuliwa na community ikaeleweshwa. Kwa hiyo tunapoongelea gender equity, there's a component of an assessment ambayo pia na yenyewe ina resource implication ambayo it need to be budgeted for. Kwa hiyo hapo nimeongelea walimu na watoto wenye ulemavu, lakini pia nimeongelea issue ya kubalance between rural and urban deployment of teachers. Na kuhakikisha kwamba kuna mgawanyo sawa, yani kuna mgawanyo wa rasilimali kutokana na mahitaji yaliyopo. Lakini pia hata kwenye majengo yanayojengwa, kama nchi yetu Tanzania sasa hivi tuko katika utekelezaji wa mapinduzi makubwa katika sera ya elimu. Tuna sera ya elimu na mafunzo toleo la 2023, very recent, na mitaala iliyofanywa maboresho. Unakuta mainjinia wanaojenga yale majengo, they are not gender sensitive here. Kwa hiyo structure, samani mainjinia kama mpo hapa. Kwa hiyo nafikiri tunafanya hizi training kwenye sector education, inahitaji pia na mainjinia wanaojenga hayo majengo tuwafanyie coaching. Kwa sababu unakuta majengo yanayojengwa hayakidhi mahitaji ya watu wote. They are not gender sensitive buildings. Zinakidhi mahitaji ya watu wachache tu.
Wale ambao hawana ulemavu
wa aina yoyote.
So the bigger, thank you my sister, the bigger question is, why is it, who are the majority engineers? Is it men or is it women? Men. It is the men, right? Why is it that more men have gone to study engineering than women, and they get to design even kitchens, I don't know if you went, like when you go to rent a house, actually our kitchen is a really good example because our shelves ziko huko, Maybe sometimes I have to use a stool to reach something. That means whoever designed this thing did not think about these particular needs, So when we come down to our own programming, what are some of the things that we do that when you now think about it, you're like, wait, I didn't think about a particular group? Any example?
Yes.
Sorry, maybe we give another person a chance. Yes? Anyone? Greek and Chenwek?
Yeah, Greek Africa.
Yes.
I think for an example is...
facilitators, I'm going to have to ask.
A good example is when you're doing a training for maybe girls, and you put the registration time at around 8, and maybe it's a marginalized community. So you have to consider the gender roles, like the time they're coming to the venue and the time they're leaving.
Because why? Why do you have to consider that?
It will bring tension in the families because they might have to not do some of the roles to be there on time.
Fantastic. And even going with the other example of like if that person is a young mom, she's an adolescent mom, some of them have to figure out, where do I leave the child? And so if there's a boy who also came for the same program, that boy can wake up and come. While this girl has to figure out, where do I leave my child? They also have to have made some money because you understand they have to pay, right? For that daycare, they have to pay. So even when you're giving them a per diem, when you're giving them transport allowance, already the young mother is disadvantaged because her money, she first spent it before she came. We see? So there are those small things that we can already start to think about in our own programming. What are the things that we just do? Because we are giving everyone a transport allowance, right? We give everyone. And sometimes we consider, maybe someone came from Mombasa, I came from here, Kibra, but the Kibra person gets maybe, 500? The Mombasa person gets 1,500. If you look at it, the Kibra person has still gotten more money, right? So there are so many things that we can see, even in our own settings, in our own programming. There are things we already do that exacerbate the divide between boys and girls, men and women, and if we interrogate them, then we can program better, We can be more inclusive because when we're inviting people, we've already tried to preempt what their needs are, and we can cater for them well. Okay, so let's take our seats and just watch a short video for us to just bring this home. And thank you so much for your participating and participation and standing. Yeah. So we say gender equity is everyone, right? Men, women, girls, and boys, people of other genders, everyone having a fair opportunity to attain their full potential and well-being. And we are saying sometimes, like even in our own well-being, when we think about it, if you have, for example, a small child, depending on how fussy that child is, there's someone's well-being on the line, right? How do you, even as a leader, if a young woman in your office or someone in your office has a child, how do you ensure you're catering for their well-being because they have a child? You just say, you have a job, and we report at 8:30, right? Let everyone show up what? At 8:30. If we think about it, then that person, and then after 6 or so months, we are having the, what is it called? The appraisal. And we are saying, Purity, you've been performing really badly, In fact, I realized like in some organizations, that's a time, in other countries, that's a time women get fired when they've just come back from maternity leave. Actually, within that year, like I used to work with an organization that was based in the UK, and I mean, I had a team member who, she had her own problems, But it felt like the easiest way to go about this situation was when she'd gone, for the 3 years I worked in that place, first of all, this woman was always on. She was pregnant when I joined the organization. No, she'd just given birth. She was on maternity leave. And that maternity leave, so it looks like it's equal because she was on maternity leave for 9 months. Then when she came back after 3 months, she got pregnant. So then, and she had so many complications. So again, she was on leave. But then, by the time she was giving birth to the second baby, the organization decided they didn't want this particular young woman. And what ended up happening was now make a whole plan of how, by the time she comes back, we have appraisal, we say she's not performing. Of course she's not performing, Cindy. So in some cases, when do we do that as leaders? Because we are the people, right? And I'm telling you something that I was there, my boss is telling me, oh, you need to write the case for this woman. I'm like, actually, no, I'm not going to write it. And of course, that would cause me a lot of problems. I'm like, I'm not going to write about it. First of all, I don't even understand the UK law. So we had to hire someone to write that case. We are the people who do that. Sometimes, of course, it's because someone is being problematic. It's not because of their agenda, but as leaders, some of the decisions we take, how can we ensure that we are being a lot more inclusive, taking in consideration that the people we work with, some of them, they're going through various changes. Now we have a big issue around mental wellness, and mental health. What are we doing for our teams so that people can perform as we would want, or at least we are making some space for them to continue being part of our organizations. So just to, sorry, Ndug, is it? I think the link was working. So just a quick video, it's maybe I think a minute or so, for us to just, and this particular example is really around an organization that works on sports, but you can place your organization there and see what are some of the barriers the girls and the young women you work with encounter that you could maybe start to think about even as we go into the planning that you are going to be doing. Maybe rewind, I think it's a whole chance. Yeah. Thank you. Any takes or anything that you'd like to share from that? Any takes when we think about our own organizations? Hello. Yes, my brother.
Okay. I think my take is that gender has been construed. I don't just use the word miss. Has been construed to mean girls and women from that video. Because of some of those challenges are not unique to women. You have the issue of single fathers, because of how family setups are changing. So, and that affects not only programming really, but organizational structure and thinking about men. If I went today I'm not talking about my organization per se, but if I went to ask for time to say take my kid to the hospital, and we work together. So, and she went, for example. They'll ask, hey, no, they will not ask, but they may ask their brains. Why are you the one? There are those cultures, that things that have been so ingrained in us that it's easy for it to be hard doing it than if I go and say, yes, I want to go, say, for example, take my kid for vaccination. So I think that video reinforces that misconception, in my opinion.
Thank you. What do others think? Yes? Yes?
Okay. So I can also connect the gender equity with empathy. So you cannot practice the gender equity if you are, equity just in general, if you're not empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other offers? So my brother, why would it be odd that you're going to ask to take your child to hospital?
It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be odd.
Yeah.
But I think the conception,
yeah.
I don't call it misconception because it is a misconception. The conception has been that the gender role are so ingrained in us subconsciously that the thinking has been that there are some roles, even for us who've gone to school, should be in some roles. It's wrong, by the way. It's really wrong in my thinking. So I think their video, in my opinion, should have had both boys and girls to share some genders. There are barriers which are unique to women, granted. But gender barriers are now transcending the sexual or differences.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm struggling with that video, because it's sort of reinforcing that gender equity is a women issue. It is a gender issue to me.
So maybe a quick question. Does Tanzania, are you from Tanzania?
No.
Yeah. Oh, you're from Kenya?
Mimi ni jamaa mtaba.
Wewe mtu wa mtaa. Does Kenya have a women's football team?
Which does better than the men football team.
But how many people know it?
I do know it. I support it.
Yeah? How many people know? Does Tanzania have a women's football team? Yes. And it is well known?
Yes.
If you go and look, do they earn the same as the men?
No, they can't.
Yeah?
No, they don't.
Yeah, because the same conversation we are having here, the barriers to entry for women to play football, some of it is as basic as, if you go say to Kibra right now, you will find boys on some field playing football. Sababu, they're not taking care of their siblings, they're sindio. That is a barrier to entry that feels like these boys, now when you come to the aspect of class, you can say those boys should be in school, not playing football. And if the Premier League, or say, I used to be a supporter of Arsenal, but I stopped. I don't even know who I support anymore. But if they came looking for people, chances are they wouldn't find that boy because of other barriers to entry. But they wouldn't even find the girls because that sport has been said that it's for boys. So the same thing that makes it hard for you as a man to go and say, I want to take my child to hospital, is that ingrained mentality that only this is women's work. And that's what we are saying about roles and responsibility of women and men. When it is seen as this is a man's role, it's like there's no barrier to entry. Yeah? You can take your child and no one will question. But because everyone around us, even us, there are some things, when you hear someone is going to take, the man is going to take their child to hospital, you're like, but where is the wife? Sindio? Ako wapi na anafanya nini that this man is working and now he has to come take the child to hospital. While when it is a woman's turn, the woman does what? She leaves work. Maybe it's her lunchtime. Sindio? Akimbia nyumbani, takes the child to hospital and then comes back to work. So some of those things, they are so subtle. We don't see them, but they're there. They influence how we think and the decisions that we make. Yeah? Yeah. Yes, my sister?
Yes, I recently learned that we have in Kenya, we have Grandmothers Football Club. It is in Eldoret. They went to compete in South Africa. So apart from that, I'm looking at gender responsive programming, even looking at, yes, maybe we could be talking for this particular context at women.
Yeah.
And also looking deeply, every woman could be having different kind of needs when it comes to gender allocation.
Yeah.
For example, the issue an urban woman would be facing could be different from what a rural woman would be facing.
Yeah.
Even in the workplace, maybe a woman who is at the reproductive age could be having different issues compared to the different ages around that. So as we're doing gender responsive programming, how do we intentionally look for solutions? Because I was looking at that video, I think it's a helmet they were given. So like we say that everybody should have a helmet, every size and everything around that.
Yeah.
So it also brings, as much as looking at in terms of equity, how do we go down, but to understand like how can I be able to support this particular person to thrive in their role, as much as there's that particular, like you say that we are reporting at 8, oh, let's report at 9. Maybe 9 is not working for someone else because of the kind of issues they are working around that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And when we think about ourselves as leaders, you know, sometimes leadership feels so abstract. The things that stress you, what are they? Is performance. What else? Growth. If people are feeling you yourself, are we growing as an organization? Are my people growing? Maybe you went to Harvard for 3 months and came back and now all you're doing is slapping people with log frames, and you're the only one who understands that. Sindio? And then you're like, these organization people are not even ambitious. No one is applying for these things. You're not asking yourself, how is it that it is you who was able to go to Harvard? Sindio? These are the things. What else stresses us in our organizations? Resources, yeah? When we are looking for resources, yeah? And when we look for resources, sometimes in the civil society ecosystem, I think because this work initially started from what? Like almost an affirmative action type of thing, right? Where we are saying that girls and women have been so disenfranchised, let's create programs that are helping them come to par. When we stick to the conversation about who's an engineer, for the longest time, those of us who've been through the public schools, we know there are only like 5 things you could be, right? Engineer, doctor, lawyer, pilot. Teacher, you are not doing very well. At least here in Kenya, they're like, you're not bright. At least they're like, you're not acing it. That's why you want to be a teacher. But because of those things, but even now, actually, I don't even think this thing has changed in our education system. That when you go to say, the physics that is taught in girls' schools is very different from I think they had pure physics and something else, yeah? Which was always divided on who's taught what, because it's already assumed that girls won't want to go into that, yeah? Even when you think about whether it's mechanics, here, Tanzania, Uganda. The time I was in Rwanda and they were talking about teaching people how to be cobblers, you know, the people who make shoes. We actually no longer have a lot of those anymore, right? But it was always seen that only men can do that thing. But let's not even go far. Let's think about IT. Because this has happened when we are here, right? When we think about how many people have gone into IT, men, girls and boys, men and women, we still see that disparity already exist. And part of it is that socialization, that girls are not good in science, yeah? And some of us, our programming already addresses that. So when we, as my sister already took us to the gender responsive programming, we are saying is where those gender norms, the things that say girls can do X, but boys cannot do, or boys can do this, girls can't do. Roles and inequalities that have been considered and measured, which we have to take into account. We have to address them in our organizations, because you could be, like I came across a good example I think it was in Rwanda, no, I feel like it was in Kenya, where the girls, where this organization, their main work is to distribute sanitary towels and teach about menstrual health. But the boys in this particular slum area were saying, but why are you programming for girls? You also need to program for us. But do boys need pads? They don't need pads. And so sometimes when we talk about equity, there are things you will not be able to offer to everyone. But how do we make our stakeholders understand that some people need pads, and I don't have to get a packet of pads because I don't need it? Yeah? And so it's like, do they get something else, or do we program in a way that there is such ownership in the community that people can actually see it's okay to give the girls pads, and it's okay for the boys to receive information, right? Because if we give them condoms, what will be said? We're encouraging them to go and have sex, right? So when we think about our programs, what are some of those tensions that we are holding that sometimes come in the way of how we program or what we do? Because yes, we do know the work, but as even it's coming across here, things are constantly changing. So how do we also address the changes that are coming in our own ecosystems? All right? Okay, so we'll move on to the next thing. I want us to talk a little bit about gender dynamics. I just wanted us to define the terms and have a couple of examples here and there that just bring this gender conversation home for the work that we do. I think we will have to stand again. Maybe you ate too much ugali. Eh? Eh? Ni ugali inafanya kazi. Haya, let's discuss gender dynamics. Find a partner you haven't talked to. Eh? Yeah, you can pair or be in threes, yeah. Hiya, I'm going to give you 2 minutes because you're taking a minute finding a partner. Gender dynamics, and the time starts now.
One check, mic check, mic check.
Haya. Any offers? Gender dynamics? Yes, my sister.
We can share.
One meeting. Yes.
We discussed in terms of dynamics, it's the variations according to the different cultures and societies on how they've been able to normalize the practices around that. And we are able to share within, like, now when it comes to culture, the different communities.
Sorry, we are all so confused.
Sorry. Yeah. For example, in one culture, you find it is normal for ladies to build the houses, but when you go to another community, it's the men who do so. So it is in terms of appreciating the different cultures and the why as to why they've been able to settle for that kind of practices.
Thank you. Other additions, yes?
So, gender dynamics for us, we went further and say it's not biblical, because biblically, gender. We know gender is it's a sex, men and women, it's social constructed, but this gender dynamics, like, I think it was brought by this wave of globalization, and that's why now you'll see another gender adding up. So men, care, and others. So that's
asante sana hapa.
For us, we discussed an aspect of the current trend and issues, whereby initially we used to believe that it's a man who provides for the family, but currently, you bring your 50, I bring my 50.
Yes.
Initially, we used to believe that men are going to drive trucks, but we've currently seen women driving trucks and buses.
Absolutely.
So it's about the trend and issues, how life is changing, the economic variables.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's all about how we interact as men and women, boys and girls, and it's shaped by those norms that we talked about earlier. They always said men do X, men are the providers, women are not. We see how much tension that brings in our relationships. And in some organizations, we know that. I don't know if it happens in our institutions where men are paid more, but in government, it used to happen a lot, And it used to happen that if there's a scholarship to be given, the man is more likely to get it because it's assumed they don't have anything tying them down. While a woman who's qualified will be denied that opportunity because of those gender dynamics of this man, when he goes, he's going to come back. This woman, she has to take care of the children, etc., etc. And sometimes, even when we think about our own institutions, what are some of the things that could be happening because we are thinking about the gender dynamics and saying, maybe. I think this happens a lot in the political scene, where women, even when it comes to getting the resources, they're like, nani ataenda kwa club, si ndio? Kuongelesha watu, ama kucheza, what is it called? The one Tiger Woods used to play is called golf, Golf, If you want to raise money, see, they say you go to play golf. How many women go to play golf, So there are those dynamics that sometimes work against us, work against the men, or work against the women. But also when we bring it back to our own leadership, what are some of the dynamics that we may be observing in our own institutions? One of them, I think, is, I don't know, majority of the institutions, is it true that men are more likely to be the ones holding the finance department? Is it true? Yes? So, okay. We are 50-50, And how powerful is that office? You could be planning to go wherever. If you're kosana with the finance person, your things disappear, They're not being signed. Do we see this dynamic? Okay, maybe it's not our institution. That we have no problems, right? We are talking about those others outside. So what are some of those things? The executive director could be a woman, right? And then the deputy is not even the deputy. They are normally director of programs. Who has an example of what happens in those relationships? At the institutional level, when the executive director is a woman, whether she was hired or even she hired this man, when they sit together in a gathering, who has the voice of the people? Majority of the time it is the man, because our norms say that men are the leaders. We've seen in this country, Tanzania, you've done very well. Because Madam Suluhu ndio huyo anaendelea. Sisi kutoa Suluhu. Sisi wa Kenya tumesema, because we've had it 3 rounds of women vying. Or even in America, recently we saw, right? We'd rather have someone who is, whatever you want to describe that, than have a. Those are the dynamics, because when we go to vote, when we go to hire someone, you're saying this docket feels like, please note, it's not based on anything. It just feels like to you. But why does it feel like that? Because this is how we are socialized to think, yeah? Like even I, because I've actually had only one job where I worked with men, and I hated it. I hated it because it was, the power dynamics were just so much. All the men were here, and the rest of us, now you have to, like, if you leave your papers there to be signed, you have to wait for the executive director to come at 6:30 p.m. Please note, work ended at what time? 5. 6:30, so then, and if you don't wait, please note your program is not going to be implemented. What happens when we come to appraisal? What happens when all the other things that follow that, yeah? But now, for me, because I've worked with the women most of my life, I actually realized that I used to have such hard, like, the connection of, if we have to hire a man, then I moved again and I was working with men. And I was like, actually, must we do that? Must we do that? Of course, until we decided to get sued for being told we are not, there's no equality in our organization because we are not hiring men, yeah? Or when you advertise, a role, they're like, oh, in this country, you actually can't say. That's why they say women are encouraged to apply, yeah? You don't say men cannot apply, but in real sense, what do they mean? Men cannot apply. Or if they apply, they are already disadvantaged, yeah? Within this institution, because this institution is focused on women. And of course, there's a lot to unpack on why those dynamics are like that. So when we think about our own programming, when we say we are doing a programming on, say, maybe there's a policy, at least maybe like in Kenya, how last year we had all these maandamano around the finance bill. And we want to do sensitization of who should now hold the government accountable. We could take our seats. Who's holding the government accountable? Do we think about the gender dynamics that allow for people to participate actively and figure out what's missing in our own programming so that we can bring everyone on board, yeah? Any last offers as we move on? I want us to move on to our next segment. Yeah, so gender dynamics is the relationships and our interactions between and among men and women, boys and girls. And all of these are really informed by where we are at a particular setting, yeah? Social, cultural ideas, the things that we already hold and the powers that inform or define these relationships. These are the things that really reinforce. Are men cooking? Yeah? Men only cook when they are being paid, right? Yeah, mostly, right? Or is it a oh, they are bachelors, right? Those are the things that sometimes come to our organization. We say, this work can be done by particular people, this can't be done by others. All right? So, I want us, now that we are, do you have any offers or reflections when we see any of the things that we've discussed play out in our institutions? Or other people's, those other people, their institutions. Yes. Yeah.
So I was reflecting on the dynamics in leadership and power.
Yeah.
So our organization is mostly led by 98% of women and just few male. And it's so hard for people to understand why are all women in this particular organization because they have this notion that women can't work together because they're driven with attitudes, emotions.
Yeah.
So how can how can all women work together?
Yeah.
So it's just because they have not come across such environment or such scenarios.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when hiring or when opportunities comes across, there's so much challenges. I mean, challenging. Like, why do you hire only women? So sometimes we respond it's because of the nature of our programs. We need female role models to go and empower young girls, and they'll say even an accountant can be a male. Why should? So I think how things are set up, it's the community now to empower the community to understand that even women can lead them entirely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
I just want to share a little bit of experience. I've worked in an organization where I was the only part of the management who I'm a lady, the rest were men. You know, sometimes they could sit alone and decide things for themselves, what is supposed to be the entire management. Sometimes if they want to engage me, they could set a meeting in the evening. They know that I'm at home cooking. That is the time they set the meeting. Or sometimes they could call for a meeting on Saturday when they know it's the time I'm doing the house cleaning and setting up my family issues. So I reached a stage, I said, wherever I even had an opportunity to become even in any of the board position, my recommendation will be the organizational structure should highly be inclusive in terms of men, women, youth, young women, as well as both men and women, so that there should be equal representation of each group in such a way when they decide the things, at least in time. Simple things like time for the meetings. For God's sake, bringing a woman over the weekend to do some A, B, C, D, and calling a meeting that you know she is at home cooking at that time, and that's the time you set the meeting. Or you set a meeting at 9 p.m.
Because you are going to meet at, here there is a popular club called K1, right?
Exactly.
And if people see me there very often, they start to say, hey, this one,
You see, and for them it was just very normal. It's like, we can have this meeting at 9. Martha, you want to be part of the meeting? Please join. I was like, you guys are gender insensitive. And they were really feeling bad when I told them something like that. But it's something that we really need to work and change people's perception. Okay, I believe change starts with an individual. But again, we have to be a catalyst for change within the team that we work with. With those small things, they have a lot of impacts.
Thank you so much. And because of those dynamics, I mean, it looks like it's fun, but when we think about our organization, some of these things already happen, right? Where we see that there's space that is already closed for leadership just because the next possible person doesn't fit that particular picture. I think in Kenya and Tanzania, maybe not. I don't know if you see the analysis where you have I want to say one tribe because I know you also have many tribes and you're not as loud as we are about your tribes, But here you go, I think very recently there was something where in Kenya, just like one old government department just had people from the same tribe. You see, there are so many barriers to entry in leadership, even whether for women or for men. Maybe for men, for the longest time, men have been leading, so it didn't look like there are barriers to entry. But now, of course, we are having a lot more conversations of how we can be a lot more inclusive. If we think about even including people with disability in our programming, we don't, right? And the reason is, sometimes we don't, because it costs a bit more to bring someone. If we brought someone here who is visually impaired or blind, we have to bring 2 people, them and their assistant, right? So we choose the easy way out. We don't bring that person, or we don't even think about who else is missing. As we were talking earlier about stakeholders, who's missing in the way we program? What are the dynamics that are making it hard for that person to come to be in that particular place? I think we've seen a lot of athletes, mostly, I feel like I've seen a lot of men who they're blind, but they have an assistant and they run internationally, But there are questions we don't ask ourselves. Why is it like this? Why is this the norm? And why are we not seeing women? Why are we not seeing, I think in other places you've seen like the Paralympics. I don't think, our countries, we are so far, yeah, from saying here are people who have various levels of disability, but we've made it possible for them to actually play at an international level. In our own programming, what are the things that impact our programming? That if we think about it, we could include a lot more people in our communities. And that will vary depending on where and what you are doing, yeah? Fantastic. Let us continue discussing power. I think there are a few things around power that are, there are a few conversations here on power that are starting to emerge. So let's focus a little bit on power. And we are going to do an exercise, so let's all stand up. Yeah? Higher. So, we are going to now become members of a new, you may have come across this particular power exercise. And this exercise, we want to just do power analysis. Power analysis, so we are all thinking about ourselves. What power do you hold? And what power do you hold as a person? What's the power within your institution? Think about your role. Think about the programs that you already learn. If you're the executive director, think about others. But anyway, I think once we set the stage, the thing will play itself out, yeah? So let's just come here, be in lines of two so that we are 50-50. We are equally...
Men and women.
The men are so few, otherwise that would have been the way to go. The men are... It's our time. Haya, tuchangamke. Haya.
We are facing this side.
No, we just, okay. Actually, we can face each other. Let's ensure everyone has a partner.
My friend, squeeze so that I get the partner.
Haya, acha nichukue hii microphone for the record. Haya, tuko sawa? Kuna mtu ana jirani? Haya, wacha tutafute hapo. Damaris, could you please come join this our team so we can be equally distributed? Jirani. Haya. So now, as we look at each other, we are all citizens of a new planet. Forget this planet Earth. We are members of a new planet. On this planet, we do one thing all the time. The thing we do is we greet each other. We also listen to and seriously follow the laws of the land. And the laws of the land, I'm the holder of them, so I will inform you accordingly. So now, as citizen of this new planet, please do what we do. Move around and greet people. Greet the other citizens. I will tell you. When you hear my bell, then you will know. You greet and you talk to them. Yeah. Introduce yourself by name. Let's move around, find another partner. Tell them something you haven't told this one. Huyu mwenye inchi kama wewe. Find another member of the planet, talk to them. You're just talking about yourself. You can share anything and everything you want. Haya, find another partner. Find another partner. Haya. All right, focus on me. Focus on me. So, in this new, I said we have laws in this land, right? So now I'm about to read the first 3 laws of our new planet. Law number 1. Welcome, nobles of our new planet. You are a planet of happy, friendly people, always eager to meet someone new, always ready to tell them something about yourself. As citizens of this new planet, you each have you have rights to 4 things. Yeah, you have 4 rights as members of this new planet. Right 1, you have a right to hire for your own department. Yeah, you all work in this really well-established organization. You're doing very well, and you have a right to hire for your department. Okay, no one can come and tell you, here, work with so and so. Yeah. Second, you have a right to respect from others. Remember, we are happy, we are friendly, so we have a right to respect from others, which protects you from people treating you unkindly or discriminating against you. You will each get a card to represent these rights. The third right that you have is opportunities to make your own decisions. You don't need to consult, you make decisions. And when you make decisions, this prevents people from first making decisions about your money or taking things away from you. Yeah? You have access to information. You will each get a card that represents that as well. The fourth right that you have is you can control your own budget. Remember, you can hire for your department. You also have a right to respect from others. You have the right to opportunities to make your own decisions, and you can control your budget. So, I welcome you, noble citizens, to pick a right. I have four badges here of the rights that you have. Please pick one and go on to greet others. Let's all pick a right. Pick one from each bunch. So you have 4 rights. So ensure you have 4 rights. Yeah. Haya, endeleeni kusalimiana kama umechukua kadi zako. Haya, did everyone get their 4 rights? Yes. Okay, so I want you to walk around as you continue greeting each other. Please share. What is it that you had for lunch today? Share with your new neighbor as you move around. What did you have for lunch? Remember, we are just greeting each other. Haya, noble citizens of the new planet. Yes. Things have changed around us. The whole population of our planet will now be divided into two parts. So please, some of us will become squares, some of us will become circles. They look like they are, let's say, ovals in this case. So, we shall be divided. So please come and pick one card. Maybe we should, how many are we? We were, anyway, yeah. Let's distribute so so that we all have a pink. Some of us have a pink and a white, a square. Yeah. So just take one. How many are there? Wait, I'll divide you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 people have the pink one, and the other 8 have the white ones. Hiya. How many pinks do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need one more pink. Okay. The whites? Everyone has a card? Alright, so. Yeah? The whites, we should be 8. 8, 8. Okay. Alright, citizens of the new planet. I want you to walk around talking to each other about your budgeting plan for your organization. Let's walk around. We are all leaders. In this new planet, we are leaders. So today we are just talking about our budgeting. Let's move around. When you hear the bell, you stop, yeah? You can talk to anyone. You can talk to anyone. We're just divided into 2 groups. Some of us are squares, others are circles. Yeah. Yeah. So, in our new planet, whether if you have a pink card or a white card, this is your life card. This is what sustains you to life. This is your life card. So let's move around. Maybe you could tape your card, or you already know what card you have, but this is your life card, okay? Hi, let's move around. The conversation don't really matter. We are all into the exercise, Let's move around, yeah. Anything. You remember, our main job in this planet is to greet each other. So the conversations are very loose. They are very loose. Noble citizens, things have changed in our planet. In our current dispensation, we have now declared that the circles have more power than the squares. Wow. If I ring the bell while a circle and a square are greeting each other, the circle can take one of the square's 4 rights. You can take one, yeah? The circles, only the circles can take, okay? Yes. If the square, if you've been taking and the square has, listen. Listen, yeah. And listen to the instructions. People are not listening. People of the new planet, listen. I had not even finished the instruction. Some have already given their life card. Listen, so the instructions are as follows. Wait for me to finish reading. If you're holding someone else's life, give it back. The life card is the last thing you give. Once you've given all your rights, that's the last thing that you give. So listen. So times have changed. The circles have more power than the squares, okay? If I ring the bell while a circle and a square are greeting each other, the circle can take one of the square's 4 rights. If the square has no more rights, the circle can take the square's life card. If a square loses his or her life card, he or she must stand frozen in place for the rest of the game. even though the squares know of this risk that you are being hunted, as you said, they must continue greeting each other. So you can't say, me, I can't participate, because this is the only thing we do on this planet, okay? Let's continue. You can't say no. Members of the, Listen. Listen. Remember, you are people who love following the rules of the land. One of the rules is when the bell rings, if you are a circle, you can take what? A right from the square. Now the square cannot refuse because we love following the rules and the laws of the land. So, take two. Continue greeting each other. You cannot hide. You cannot hide. Okay. Attention. Has anyone lost their life card? Yes. Oh, a couple have lost their life cards. All right, okay. All right, so maybe one last round. We see who else loses their lives, then we can stop the game. All right, let's move around, greet each other. If you have already lost your life, you're frozen. You're not doing anything. If you have lost your life card, you are frozen. You too. You have to agree. Give your rights, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. So, how many people are frozen in time? We have 3. How many? It's because you citizens are not very good at following the rules. You're not supposed to refuse to give the right or even your life card, because remember, you're such good citizens, right? You follow the rules. Everything you're asked to do, you do, even when it's coming at a cost to you. All right? So, let's do some reflection. The hat that we are wearing is us in our leadership. Yes? Us in our leadership and in our organizations. If we think about our own rights, our own power. Anything. What did you feel about having 4 rights? How was it like? Anyone? Yeah? Comfortable? Powerful? How did we feel? We said powerful, comfortable,
confident,
in control,
confident,
Free,
equal. We were all equal, right?
Free,
right?
And the environment was very good because we are all equal.
We are all
We
equal.
share the same rights
Yeah.
in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
So you felt also in control.
Yeah, we were in control.
Yeah.
We were eager to greet people, right? None of us was threatened in any way.
There were threats.
Yeah, there were threats already. So, how did you feel when I said I'm dividing you into circles and squares?
Tension.
That's
where the classes began.
The class began.
Yes.
Other?
Inequality.
take.
Yeah.
We felt the squares, we felt valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, hunting us.
Yeah, because we're being hunted, eh? This word hunted is the word, eh? Other things? Competition. Suddenly?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you have to go and compete to take on the right.
Yeah. And we were eager to take other people's rights. Yeah?
There was also some caution because I had to look who I'm greeting first.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are suddenly cautious, yeah? And that caution in our own organizations, how do these things play out? When we are already divided, I have more power than the other person. How does that show up? Or what do we notice?
Lack of feedback. People will hold back.
People hold back.
There will be some kind of lies because I observed during the camp. The two squares were holding each other hands. When I observed they are both square, I grabbed the right. And the other square was threatened the colleague. They just come from the same organization. She said, "But I have not
But that's created a use of force. She used force to grab the right.
Because they are powerful.
And then when she said that, I was like, no, you can't treat her like that. Give me the card. Give me the right.
Yeah. So because we already are aware we are powerful, we are using it over other people and forcing them to do things they wouldn't otherwise do, right? Because who wants to give up their right? And remember, these rights are very alive in our organizations, right? It's me having control over my budget. It's me, because if I control over my budget, of course I can go to Harvard, right? If I want to go to Harvard, for example, yeah? What else? What's our other right? Yeah? To hire, right? I can decide this is the person I want to work with. Eh? And we are saying that truly, me and the executive director or the founder, we started off equally. I have these 4 rights. They have these 4 rights. But then why should someone, in what, you see how we take, there can be times that we are taking rights from others, consciously or unconsciously, yeah? Okay, another question. Squares. I feel like we've already discussed this anyway. How did you feel when the circles were given more power? You said vulnerable, fearful, right? And suddenly we can't trust each other, yeah? And circles. What was it like to have the most power? The circles, who are now holding so many rights, they don't know what to do with them.
We felt privileged.
You had privilege, yeah? Yeah. Anything else?
Out how we do when the rights are there,
in
terms of striking the balance and making sure that things goes on well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Any other of us? When we think about our own institutions, you go first.
I think we formed a coalition of the squares.
The coalition of the squares.
Coalition of the downtrodden.
Of the downtrodden.
We have to figure out how to maneuver the powers that be around us.
Yeah.
So that's why we are greeting each other. As a survival tactic.
Yeah, I'm not really going to greet you, yeah, because I already feel threatened, yeah. And when we think about our own institutions, do we see any of these things playing out? Yeah. In what ways? Let me expand the question and say, our institutions, when we think about the people we work with and even our stakeholders, are there times we are taking rights or our rights are being taken? Because it's not always that we are the ones taking the rights of others, right? Or their power. And rights here equals also power, because you have the power to control your budget, right? You have the power to decide who to hire. So in our own institutions, and we think about our stakeholders, how do these things play out?
Maybe let me go first. I don't know. Like, I want to share a piece. You know, civil society, we are having a role, and for me, role is much more, I mean, like, it's a link with the power. Like, civil society, our role is to hold the government accountable. We're having some sort of a right to freedom of speech. We can get to air things that are not working well in the government. But during the fifth regime, that right was installed from us. We felt that as CSOs were operating in an environment that our space was shrinking. Like, you can literally see there are some areas that you as organization that advocates for equitable rights to education for all, there are spaces that you cannot stand and advocate for the voice of the vulnerable, because again, you'll be positioning yourself in the risk of maybe your organization being closed or sanctioned. Yeah, so at that time we felt like our rights to freedom of speech, to holding the government accountable were stolen. Rather, we were imposed with I can say it's the role that you need to do service delivery. So that you can get to rub shoulders to the government officials so that they can get to see that you're a partner. But if you're exercising your role as a civil society, they tend to see you that, no, like you some sort of want us to, you are creating chaos.
You're creating chaos, that's so true. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, maybe,
Take current life example. We offered a press release.
There was some kind of gender-based violence that led to a student death. Then we offered a press release. Then someone from the other side of the partner that we work with, the state, came and said, you grabbed our right. We don't have even a right ya kujitetea. Mmetoa tu. You just gave a press release. You've already judged us straightforward to the point. Kwamba we are not doing anything. You have taken our right for us to defend for ourselves. We feel very vulnerable. I asked them, did you execute what we asked you to do? Say, yes, there was no option left for us apart from doing it. So they felt that we have grabbed their right for them to explain themselves that it was this and this and that this way. So sometimes they also feel that way, that their rights are being taken away by the civil society.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And as leaders, when do we feel threatened, even by the people who we work with? You could be the executive director, right? What ways have you felt threatened, or have you seen others being threatened? Are you the threat?
I think I've seen, where you can be threatened is where you're out of depth in that area of specialization. You could be, for example, programs manager, whatever, but then there's a specific sub-skill that you don't have. Call it data analytics. So because you don't understand that, it could threaten you. Yes, I think.
That's so true. Yeah, and I think part of the work that we are doing here, getting to understand the people we work with and understanding our own enneagrams and all of that, is to help us figure out there are things I could be strong in and you don't know because you've never really seen me as this person. There's always a level of either you're ignoring me or you've taken all the rights that I really never fully participate. We know the people who finally gave their life cards were just standing still, yeah? Think about our institutions. Are there people who are just standing still because we've taken every power from them? And when it comes to programming, we are always probably hiring a consultant, But it could be that the solution is we offered someone a communications course. Then they were able to start writing the stories that we needed to hire someone to come from outside to come and do. That is our exercise of power. Yeah, how we exercise our power within the organization becomes so critical because it helps us build. If we want to build together, we come from, all our work is really social, right? We come from the social movement. Our work is really about human beings. And if we don't figure out how do we connect ourselves so that we are all working together, you find that the leader has all the rights, right? They have like 6 control of a budget. How much time do they have to control the budget of 6 departments that are very big? How much time do they have to be in all the meetings and be the spokesperson? How much time do they have to do all the things that are needed within that institution and do them well? And when we think about this planet, we were all happy, yeah? Our main thing was to greet each other. Now imagine what comes when we are not greeting each other, is all these other things of feeling threatened, yeah? These things happen within our institutions, our organizations, even stakeholders. Like recently I came, I was speaking to some people because their director had a heated exchange online with some other members of the society. And so they wrote to the donor withheld their money. So there's a whole conundrum. Sometimes you have to also figure out who's your stakeholder. Who else are you not seeing? How are they impacting you? Because we can spend a lot of time talking about funding. And if we get the funding, of course, we do the work. But sometimes there are also these little things because we haven't really thought about who is being threatened by, who are we a threat to? Who feels like we are taking their rights? And how can we balance some of these relationships that we have, yeah? I once was reported to my board by my staff because I used to, actually the case was so tiny. Actually, Christine came to mediate this whole situation. Because we just started using Ubers instead of taxis, yeah? And the Uber, we said, let's put it on a credit card so that it's easier to reconcile where we've been. So we can't take credit because we are an institution. So I had a credit card, so my credit card was the one that anyone taking an Uber, I could see the transaction. So suddenly, I can't even remember, this thing was triggered by something else. But by the time it came to the board, it was like, I don't trust my people. They were saying I don't trust them. Because every time I see a transaction, I quickly text to the WhatsApp group to say, who has taken an Uber? Because, of course, I'm seeing the alert. But it's also 3 a.m. So when I wake up at 6, I'm like, who was taking an Uber at 3 a.m.? So I will ask, did anyone take an Uber? But I was asking because I wanted to know, have we been hacked? Right? But had I communicated this to the staff? No. So they took it that I was monitoring them. Yeah? I was monitoring and saying that they are stealing. I'm like, why would I be saying you're stealing 900 shillings? Like, it was so ridiculous. But that whole thing became such a big thing. Of course, I ended up letting go of some people because sometimes also as a leader, you have to make some hard decisions. Yeah? I ended up letting go of some people. But there's some key lessons I learned was the thing about if I have power. The fact that my credit card is the one on this thing already gives me another level of power that none of us had analyzed. Yeah? And how people interpret what I send as a leader means even I need a level of sensitivity of what I'm sending. I could wait at the end of the week when we're having a staff meeting, and say, hey, I've been seeing that will be taken lighter than when I write it as an SMS at 6 a.m., yeah? At 6 a.m. People are like, hey, this woman, first of all, she doesn't sleep, Yeah, we are men, you don't sleep, Yeah, they're like that. She's worried about Tuba. Yeah, honestly, these are the things. And I had so many issues. One other quick example, because these things are so real, and we don't even think about them from a place of power. You just think you're doing your job. But I had my firstborn was a year old when I decided it's a perfect time to go and do an MBA. read stress, right? So I'm doing an MBA. This organization is really growing, and I'm traveling. So when I come back, I will not stay home. I will go because I have all these assignments waiting for me. And going back to the gender equality and equity, because my husband has never had to, he's never had to get out of home to go do his assignments outside, because my sons know, here there's a boundary, yeah? Me, there's no. So anyway, so, so what I would do is I would go to the office, sit there. I had my own office. So I sit there and I'm just doing my assignment. People go home, I finish my assignment, I go home. Then one day we were doing, it's called organizational mapping process by this funder who wanted to give us a multi-year grant. So they come and they're interviewing all the staff members. And what happened is that all of us got a questionnaire, you filled it on your own. Then we sat down and said, on board management, what is your score? 3, 1, 0. So now we discuss why are we so different and how do we come to the same place. When we came to the leave policy, people are like, yeah, we have a very good leave policy, but we never go on leave. I'm like, huh? What? Yeah, I'm getting so shocked. Please note, this information is going to our donor. Eh? There's $2.5 million on the table. How we do this thing, eh? Anyway, so I'm like, what do you mean? You don't go on leave. We have a policy. They're like, yeah, we have a policy, but no one follows it because you never take leave. I'm like, huh? And actually, it came out because one of my team, she'd had her tooth extracted, she'd gotten an infection, and she had come to work the following day. And she's come, and so she's crying because she's in pain. Then the other staff members are like, hey, you should go home. So she goes home that day. But then on the day we are having this thing, this story now comes up, how they feel so stressed, they can't take leave. I'm like, why? They're like, because you're always here. Even when you travel, you arrive in the morning, then by afternoon you're in the office. So I'm like, yeah, I come to do assignments. They're like, yeah, we don't know. We think you're working, right? Because also I'll be emailing people. As soon as I finish my assignment, I also remember these 3 things that needed to be done, so I do them. And of course, I send people emails. So we started to think about how can my pressure as a leader not go to the rest of the people? And it's going because I'm powerful, right? People know I can fire them. So they treat me certain ways. They know I can grab their right. So they treat me a certain way. So now we put policies like don't send people emails past 5:30. You know, like it's boomerang your emails so that if you must send this email and you don't want to forget, put it. Just schedule it for tomorrow 9 a.m. Nothing, no one will die, nothing will burn. You see? But so think about your own behavior as a leader and how that's affecting the very good work you're doing around programming. Thank you. Any last offers as we sit down? I think even our time is almost up. Eh? We have 30 minutes to finalize our sessions. Any offers or reflections? Well, let's start here with Richard.
Okay, for me, I really like what you've shared. So what I was just wondering to myself, these power dynamics, do they depend at the level of growth? You know, like I'm just wondering, the organizations in this room, are we 1 to 5 years? Is there a way you can kind of know how to mitigate some, depending on the growth as well?
Yeah. Any offers on that? So how to mitigate? A bit of it is very personal, right? That's why we are here. The work that we are doing, part of it is you working on yourself so that you know purity. Go do your assignments elsewhere. I could decide not to, right? I could decide I sit here because my organization, the kinds of people. So you have to do an analysis of your own institution. Where are you in terms of growth? Because when you're between 1 to 5 years, you're under so much pressure to keep raising money. But at a certain level, when you have stability, you can make different decisions, and not every decision stops with you. You don't have to hold the right to the budget, the right to hiring, the right to everything that we hold, yeah? You have to decide to let go of some of your power so that you get the assistance that you need. So if you've gone back to do an MBA, you have time to do assignments without having to come back to the office. So, because that also speaks to trust. Do I trust my people that when I'm not there, things will move? I eventually did get there. Like when in 2019, when I finally knew I needed to leave this particular institution, I was pregnant, and I barely worked the whole of 2019. I just showed up when they said there's a meeting for X. That's when I'll just come, and as soon as, depending on what I smell, I'll puke and I'll go home. And the institution ran. We even raised more money. Yeah, but it's because I'd already put certain parameters of sharing my own power and saying, I have a leadership management team. I have, people, it's very clear, people's job descriptions. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that then you have to want to move beyond yourself so that you're not the bottleneck of the organization.
Is there like time? Like, I say 5 years?
Not necessarily, because I feel like organizations are constantly evolving. I'm a huge fan of, if you have a strategic plan, review it every year. And you're not just changing, you're just saying, in this year, last year, we did not, right? Between January and now, we are also like worked up because of Trump. How is that? How has that affected us? Which means whatever plans we set in December for this year, some of them are now irrelevant, yeah? So let your strategic planning process or plan be a living thing that you review on a regular basis. And also just having those other parameters, which I think you will do with your coaching depending on what your issue emerges as. There are a few things like, when do you meet? How do you give feedback? These are the things that stress us, yeah? It's feedback, it's if people are feeling like you as a leader, you're holding them. It's, are we relevant? Do we have money? Do we understand our purpose? Are we able to sell our mission? Those are the things that make the institution. And when we interrogate them, we can't interrogate those outside thinking about our own roles and how we impact the people that we work with, yeah? Yeah, but also there's a very good tool about the life cycle of an organization. That's when you start it, you can see the problems you have when you're 1 to 2 years. They're very different from when you're, say, 5, not even 2. Yeah, when you life stage, the life stage is not really a matter of years. It's a matter of relevance. When you started an institution, you're doing everything. You're the accountant. You're the one. Everything, you're making tea for yourself and your visitor, right? If you have an office, that is. But when you've been around for a couple of years, you have multi-year grants, all of that. You as a founder or the director, your role is very different. So you have to constantly keep calling yourself to meetings as a leader, yeah? Sorry, my sister, you had something?
Yeah, I was like, this journey of leadership is we learn. As you were telling us your story, I've realized that as leaders, when we communicate with our colleagues, we just need to make sure that they clearly understand in the same manner that we understand. Unless otherwise, because of the power, it's so easy to be translated differently.
Yeah.
So when I talk to my people, I normally make sure that I speak even 2 to 3 times.
Yeah.
I need this. Do you understand? Because of this and this and this.
Yeah.
So I said, Martha, you're repeating things. Like, yes, I just want to make sure that we are in the same boat. We understand what I really mean and the reason behind. Sio tu kumwambia kwamba fanya hichi, ambia kama tufanye hichi kwa sababu hii na hii na hii. Ukichelewa kufanya hichi, madhara yake ni haya na haya. Sometimes we rush kutoa maelezo ya kutosha kwa sababu ya muda tunakuwa nao mdogo, lakini kiukweli ukimwelezea mtu ukampa na sababu ya kwa nini inabidi tufanye hivyo, inasaidia kupunguza zile wrong perception na thinking towards the fact kwamba wewe ni kiongozi tayari, mtu anaweza kaamua kutafsiri chochote anachotaka kwenye kichwa chake.
Exactly. Yeah, and as you also give instructions, if you're developing your people as you develop, you also have to trust that what they do is fine. It's very different from how you'd have done it, but they have done it and it's okay. No one is going to die because XYZ was done differently from how you would do it, yeah? And yeah. Any other offers? Yes, my brother. You have the microphone? No? Say something.
I'll tell you the next time.
Next time.
I think.
Yeah, Joyce has something to say there. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, please look at your personality type. We will be talking about this tomorrow. But some personalities just hide stuff. They just hide stuff. And it is not that they don't want to whatever, but when you read there, you will start to see now how others are so afraid. They will just look at whoever is sitting in the office, and instead of going home to do their homework at home, they will just look there and fear will paralyze them. Others are just so not wanting to wait 1 minute. They just jump the gun. So that is why start learning you. And then before you judge the boss or the boss judge, ask yourself, what part of this is me? Yeah, because me, I can't see anything. I am moving so fast. I just find I have crushed things and, but when I'm aware, then. So, as I listen to you, I am just hearing, and because I know you're drums, that is how it happens. Because then that is the way you have always seen things. And so reprogramming you. If something really bugs you about purity, the problem is not purity. Me. So it is so hard to explain all these things in the things we are doing. But this is right on the spot. What you are talking about is right on the money. But we can discover a lot and save ourselves crying throughout the night for somebody who is having fun drinking. I don't know what.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Yeah? Thank you. Maybe we take our seats as we wrap up. And maybe I'll offer us the next 7 minutes to check our journals and just reflect on some of the things that are already coming to you, even just based on the exercise that we have done. And please give me back my rights. You
become such a huge
I'm such a planet. Yeah? So let's take the next 7 minutes to just reflect on our journals. Thank you. Great. So I had a few definitions of power, but I feel like we've already experienced all of it, yeah? So we can interrogate, yeah? Power is who gets what. We all had equal rights, right? Who gets what? But even as things change, who gets what? Because then if someone has more rights over the others, then they tend to get more. Who decides what? The person with the pink, with the circle, can decide what happens to the ones who are, they already decided by checking the right from the square person is frozen in time, yeah? They have nothing to do because they have no rights. Who does what and who sets the agenda? I think in our own organizations, we can think about the dynamics that we have and who sets the agenda. Sometimes we can have an overpowering board or an overpowering individual even when they are junior, yeah? When they speak, I think maybe eventually there will be, as we continue in these 3 days or maybe in future, there will be conversations about the dotted lines of power where you are the executive director, but really, you just have a title. You don't make any decisions, yeah? Or you can be that, because of this power, who sets the agenda? There could be, and you can interrogate your own organization. Are you part of the agenda setters, or is there a streamlined way that we respect each other and we are able to make decisions together? And decisions that are empowering to the organizations. And then some notes on power, forms of power, the very visible, the formal power, which is I'm the executive director, I'm the president, right? That is very obvious, but sometimes you also don't even know how to be the executive director, right? If you started an organization, chances are you've not had any training on leadership. Or if you've promoted someone internally, chances are they don't have any skills to be managers, yeah? So if you don't give them the power to be managers, they'll keep failing at their job. And they'll keep bringing your organization like you're not making the progress that you could be making, but it's just because the form of power you've given this person, something is not working right. They're not exercising it right, yeah? And then the hidden informal power, I think this operates really a lot in our institutions, yeah? That is how you know. There are people who went for the party. There was a party even, it just like dawns on you. There are things that happened. People decided they won't go do that project in that area, but you are not told, even though you're the leader of the department. It's because there's a heavy level of informal power there that people are using because they are already seen as a natural leader of that group. And if you do your own analysis for your institution, you can figure out when you say something and you're expecting people to do, if they don't do, what are the things that are making them not do them? Some of it could be maybe your communication, but it could also be that the power that's a lot more alive or that you exercise, even you yourself, could be very informal, so people also don't take it. They take, literally is what I was saying. The fact that I was coming to the office to sit there to do my assignment, people saw that as a way of me saying everyone must be. There is a formal power where the policy says you can go on leave. But the informal power operating say that if the executive director is here, we all must come to work at whatever cost, yeah? Let's think about our organizations and just think about, like here, if the accountant goes on break, no one else knows their work, so we won't get paid and things like that. Yeah, then the invisible power, I think a lot of the time this is what our stakeholders sometimes hold. If we are programming for girls, sometimes we don't interrogate. What is their power? Or what do they even need from us? So the girls settle, or even the people we are programming for, settle for what we give them because we've not acknowledged that they have any power. We think we know. I have looked at this place in Mwanza. I have seen this is the issue. The issue is, I think the example of teenage pregnancy will continue to carry the day, yeah? I have decided this is the level of intervention, but I have not gone to them and said, what do you need from me? And so the day they use their invisible power, maybe come together and decide the day we've come with our flip charts and whatever. And they're like, hii mkutano leo haitaendelea. Sindio? Na mimi remember I have donor targets to meet. So I can't afford for that meeting not to go on. You see? So all of that, just interrogating, what are the invisible powers around us? Some are within our institutions, some are within with the stakeholders, some of them are with funders. I think funders, theirs is visible and very invisible. Sometimes they can force you and I to work together, right? They're just saying, you go talk to Purity, she has the money. Here you come, I'm telling you, me, I don't have money. But because you're also feeling pressure, they're not saying, but you know it's in our best interest to work together even though maybe we don't agree, yeah? And we haven't cultivated our voice to actually say, wait, you're not using your power, right? Maybe we should be separate, or maybe even just recognizing that invisible power and using it as a positive thing, we could work together and we could do more work as opposed to always remaining siloed, yeah? That can happen in the ecosystem or in the, what do we call it? The movement that we are building, or it can happen within our own institutions when we realize our team members, even we ourselves, have different points of meeting, and it's okay if we figure out, if we do some work to figure out how do we work together, how do we work better, yeah? All right, and then these are just notes I can give you for later, but I'm sure you've already been through these processes of just power, how it shows up. Some of it is the power over. The pink, the circles had more power, right? It was stated that in this community where we are all equal, some people are now more powerful, yeah? And they can take away other people's rights. The executive director, the founder, the board, all of these people, sometimes, some of them have that power over just because of who they are. If you imagine if you run an NGO and the founder of it, or the board member, the founder and board member is the president, what are you going to be saying in that meeting? You're like, whatever they say passes, yeah? So that person has to be aware of the power they hold, so that when they sit there, they're not just speaking all the time. Can we sometimes be those executive directors or the department heads who have all the answers? Someone says something, you're like, but, you don't even say but, you just go, bush. You just unleash your thing and everyone else is like, okay, I guess that's what you want done, right? If that's how you want it. I don't know if people are this passive aggressive, but I find myself at the household level, sometimes I go like, if that's how you want it. Of course, I'm not really saying yes, yeah? And you can sense when your team is not really saying yes, but you're bulldozing them with your power. And then power with when we cooperate, power to when we acknowledge other people have power and we bring it on board, and power within is really us believing we are the right institution. I can change something about myself. In these 9 months, I can change things about myself just because I have the power within myself to do that. All right. So because we've run out of time, maybe tomorrow we shall, we've already really talked about this, and as we continue to reflect, there are things we will continue to do differently just because we are interrogating and we are on a learning journey. And this journey is you plus your institution. And we look forward to seeing what sorts of work plans we come up with as we continue. Maybe tomorrow we will have a bit of time to just discuss a little bit of this and then make it part of our planning, even as we come to the end of our time together this time, and then go on to work on it in the next couple of months. And some of these, the questions that we ask here or we start to respond to, may actually be catalysts of how we continue to program or change within our own institutions. I want to thank you very much for your time and your participation. I'm going to give you a break of, 5 minutes, 10. What time are we coming back? I've seen Sarah. 4:30. Okay. So we have some bit of time. We can go on break unless anyone has any final reflection. We have 2 minutes. Anybody? Yes, my sister.
I've just learned through the discussion that we had today that it's important to have time for reflection at organization level with the teams, so that we see where we have made a mistake, what's need to be amended, but also what's need to be improved, how differently can we do things instead of doing business as usual, and also changing our own perceptions the way we do things. It will really help. But otherwise, most of the time, I've just learned through the time I've worked, we are busy with implementation. We don't have enough time for reflection. And that's where the source of conflict starts. So from what we are learning today, I've heard all the presenters, and I'm coming up with a point that I really need to make sure, not just learning, but go and execute it, that reflections are very important. They're also one of the approach of eliminating some of the minor conflicts that might arise in the organization because of misunderstanding or communication breakdowns, simply.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Any other last reflections, offers? Absolutely. I think in our organizations, the currency of communication cannot be overstated. I think we over-communicate. Sema huyu anapenda mikutano. Me, I'm one of those people who say, are we meeting again? But if I yield myself to those meetings, my life is actually better, yeah? Because of course we all know. And I can voice things that have happened along the way as opposed to resisting meeting and information. Yeah? And sometimes we assume everyone knows what this organization is about. And sometimes people cannot even repeat your own mission. Yeah? They don't know. They just got a job and started working. And chances are they've been there for years and they don't even know the mission of the organization. So there's a lot of work. I think when you run an institution, it's a continuous journey of working on yourself, working on your organization. The same way you refresh your IEC material, think about that as refreshing your team, refreshing yourself, and other things as they come to you. Sawa, let's go on a break now. We come back at 4:30. Thank you so much for your time.